What's up, football world? It's Bucky Brooks, and I am excited because we have one of the best analysts, one of the best hosts that we have on the Bleav Network, Patrick Chiotti of Bleav and Broncos. And we're going to do something fun. We're going to do what everyone does at home. We're going to play like a little mock draft game. We're going to do a little mock draft. We can go back and forth and see, just kind of see how the draft could shake out if we were the general managers of all 32 teams. But before we start, Patrick, tell me a little bit about your mock draft strategy, how much time you spend going through these scenarios as we are a little over a week away from the draft.
Yeah, thanks. First and foremost, thank you, Bucky, for having me on. Big fan of your work. When it comes to mock draft season, for me, really, it starts the day after the NFL draft concludes. I'm on to the next year. I'm looking at next year's prospects. Going through potential scenarios. And while we're in the thick of draft season, this is kind of the time where I'm messing around with different draft scenarios. Obviously we kind of know in the real draft who the first overall pick is going to be. But the truth is we don't really know how the rest of the first round is going to shake out until it happens. So I like to play around with different scenarios, different trade options, especially with all the rumors swirling around about teams wanting to move down, teams wanting to move up, targeting specific prospects. So I like to just mess around and play around with mock drafts and see where certain players could fall. I've surprised myself with a couple of guys that are, bona fide top 10 guys in this class, and I'm finding myself picking them in the late 20s. So there's some interesting scenarios that can pop up. Mock drafts are always fun, and it's kind of the mystery of draft season, right? What's going to shake out.
Yeah, it's definitely the mystery of draft season. And you're right. All it takes is one unexpected move to happen to kind of change the way the rest of the dominoes fall on the table. And so with that, we're going to make it really simple. I'm going to take all the odd numbers in the draft. You'll take all the evens. Since we kind of know who the number one overall pick is going to be, I'll start it off with Cam Ward going to the Tennessee Titans to give them their quarterback of the future. And when I look at Cam Ward and I think about the connection with the Tennessee Titans, I think this is a move driven by them desperately looking for someone to be the face for the next decade. And when you think about Cam Ward making his journey, going from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami, all the tools and traits and those things, I Bleav the Titans see someone that will remind their fan base of Steve McNair, a rugged, physical quarterback that can make it happen on the perimeter, but also has exceptional arm talent. And so for me, Brian Callahan sees Ward and says, that's the guy that I want to hitch my wagon to. He's the one that's going to bring us out the doldrums.
I dig it. I think it's a great pick. The Will Levis experiment hasn't really quite worked out. Go get yourself a quarterback that can lead you for the future. They've bolstered up the offensive line. They still have room to get more weapons. I love the pick, Buck. Going to second overall, the Browns on the clock. This is a tough one because definitely it could go quarterback, but man, it seems like they've brought in almost every quarterback they've had over the last couple of years. So we're just going to go BPA. I'm going to go with your number one wide receiver, Buck, of your list that you put out today, Travis Hunter, two-way player. I think that this could be a situation where he does play the majority of his snaps on the defensive side. It gives them a really strong cornerback across from Denzel Ward. They can still use Greg Newsome in that secondary, but this is also a guy that they can use on the offensive side of the ball in some areas. I think that this is just one of those cases where you just pick a guy who is going to help your team in whatever capacity possible. Could go Abdul Carter here, but I think Travis Hunter, to me, is definitely the best player in this draft overall.
No, I think this is a pick when you talk about D. Haslam. One, the full admission of messing up the Deshaun Watson situation. I think this is one that is pleasing to the fans. You got a two-way player, someone who's a star, a playmaker on both sides of the ball. And even though you talk about him starting on defense, I think there's a fascination with Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and even Travis Hunter with touching the ball and making plays on offense. And in a division where, look, points are coveted at a premium, he is someone that can put the ball in the paint. So I can see why he would be number two. So at 3, we have the New York Giants, and this is really where the draft starts because all the conversation, all the assumptions that, look, the Giants have to get a quarterback out of this draft. But then I look today, and Joe Shane is on the podium and saying we feel good about the two quarterbacks we have, feel like we upgraded the room. It frees us to kind of do whatever we want to do at number 3. When I hear that, that's him sending out the back signal to let the fans know, hey, whatever you think we're going to do at quarterback, it's not going to happen. So let's go Abdul Carter from Penn State being the pass rusher extraordinaire for the Giants. And the reason why Abdul Carter makes sense, whenever the Giants have won in the recent eras, it's been because of their defense leading the way. And namely, it's been the front four leading the way. So now you have a defense that has Dexter Lawrence, you have Brian Burns, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, you have a rotational player, if you want, in Abdul Carter that you can throw in the mix by either playing linebacker and then moving down on passing downs and coming off the edge. To me, as a team that was probably one of the originators of that NASCAR package where they would just take their 4 best pass rushers and put them on the field, adding another in Abdul Carter not only allows them to get back to that, but allows them maybe to make a tough decision on Kayvon Thibodeau based on how they view him. If they do not believe that he has given them what they needed, they can withhold the 5th-year option, decline that, and then make him go out on a prove it and already have insurance behind him to be able to go play. That's why I think Joe Shane has kind of set the table to, hey, I'm going to take the best player, and that best player is Abdul Carter.
Yeah, I think that it also kind of poises an opportunity for them to maybe recoup something on Kayvon Thibodeau. You know, you get to the trade deadline and, maybe he's fallen out of rotation or maybe he becomes that rotational guy. I think that's an opportunity for them to, if there's a team out there who's looking for a pass rusher and they want to give Kayvon a fresh start, there's an opportunity there for them to possibly get some picks. Buck, you've left me in a funny position at number 4 because
it's perfect.
It is.
The board is wide open.
The board is wide open, and I've kind of gone back and forth with what the Patriots could do here. Yeah, they still, they added Stephon Diggs, but I feel like that the receiver room still needs a little bit of juice. But looking at the Patriots, they don't have a left tackle on this roster right now that is worth anything. Vidarian Lowe gave up 33 pressures last year, 5 sacks. So this might be the shocking one, but I'm going to go with Will Campbell here. The lineman out of LSU. I know Mike Vrabel likes a little bit of nasty, right? Mm-hmm. He loves a little bit of nasty, and Will Campbell's got some nasty in his game. The arm length is certainly a talking point, but this is a guy that can flat out play. I think that he'll be just fine at left tackle. I think he slides in there as a starter day one, and he helps Mike Vrabel kind of start that vision of completion for the New England Patriots going forward.
Makes a lot of sense because Mike Vrabel has always been one that invests in the trenches. Mm-hmm. I believe that it's crazy. We're going to talk about Will Campbell at number 4. I believe people are sleeping on Will Campbell. He got far more dogs in him than people give him credit. And he is a pass protecting clinician. Like, people should look at his tape if you're trying to teach young people how to pass protect, because his footwork is flawless. His hands are terrific. Mm-hmm. He's a really good player. So now we're at 5. And we're with my Jaguars. And here is really where you're going to have to do some digging, because the presumptive favorite to go at 5 has always been Mason Graham. Like, hey, let's slot him in. How many mock drafts have we seen Mason Graham, defensive tackle, going to the Jaguars? But I'm here to tell you, I don't think that's the pick. The pick is going to be Ashton Jeanty going to the Jaguars at 5. And the reason why the pick is going to be Ashton Jeanty going at 5 is because Liam Cohen and James Gladstone have been with the Rams for a long time. And when the Rams were at their best, the offensive player of the year was Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley not only was the best player on the field, but he allowed Jared Goff to fully maximize his potential. When you look at all the things that Trevor Lawrence has struggled with, he's never really been afforded the opportunity to kind of sit in the passenger seat and allow someone else to kind of drive the bus at times. And so for a franchise quarterback, we can talk about the best friend being a dominant runner. The dominant runner is Ashton Jeanty. Grew up in Jacksonville for a little bit, made his way. You bring him back. And I know people say, well, what about Travis Etienne? I think it's a good problem to have. He's in the 5th year of his deal. He either plays really well and goes somewhere else, or he doesn't, and it's Ashton Jeanty and Tank Bigsby. But regardless, you now have a stable of running backs that can help the Jaguars get back to being a physical team on offense, which will open up the field for them to score points on explosive plays through the air.
Yeah. Another option for a trade guy once we get into camp, Travis Etienne. I know there's going to be some teams that this is a deep class for running backs, man. And there's going to be some teams out there that don't get the guy that they want, or the type of player that they want. And I think Etienne could fill some holes on a few teams. I like the pick. I think it's one that I haven't seen for Jacksonville when looking around the mocks, but I like it. It's aggressive. Give Trevor Lawrence some help.
I mean, we're locked in. You got to pay him. So you might as well play him and play with the people that can help him. All right, 6, the Raiders. You're on the clock.
Yes, sir. So this is the Jeanty landing spot, right? That I see a lot, but I just don't know. There's so many areas where this team needs to improve. I think one of the biggest areas that the Raiders need to improve on is in the secondary. Jacorian Bennett, he came around last year. He was arguably their best player in the secondary, but Jack Jones is gone now, and a couple other guys are gone. Wide receiver is also an interesting option here, but here's where I'm going to go with this. Pete Carroll's in Vegas now. He really loves good, solid cornerbacks. I'm going to go with Will Johnson here out of Michigan. I think that this is a player who is falling for some reason out of this draft process, didn't run, dealing with some injuries, but I think this is a guy, when he's 100% healthy, that is a really solid technician in the secondary. Got some Pat Surtain vibes from him early on in Michigan, and I think that he would fit right in with Pete Carroll in Vegas.
So here's the thing, because the Raiders brass will have more intel on the Michigan guys than anybody else. John Spatek, Michigan grad. Tom Brady obviously knows Michigan well, so that's going to help. Will Johnson is falling because people worry about the injuries and the speed. Well, the one thing that we know, the best cornerback to ever play under Pete Carroll was Richard Sherman, who wasn't a Blazer. He's far more concerned about the technique and the skills and the savvy than anything else. Will Johnson, to me, would be a nice fit with the Raiders. And the Raiders they've done pretty well with Michigan Wolverines in the past. Think about Charles Woodson and some of the others. To me, I'm okay with that. So love it. 7, the New York Jets. Now, we're into it. This is where we can go so many different ways. What I love about the Jets is they've come out early and endorsed Justin Fields as their guy. And so when they endorsed Justin Fields as their guy, and then Garrett Wilson came up and really started singing his praises, I'm like, okay, Justin Fields has some love in the building. And when Justin Fields has played against Aaron Glenn in the past, he's had a lot of success. Well, let's give them a tight end, Tyler Warren, to allow them to really target the middle of the field with a big body, someone who is big, physical, gives those old school vibes because he wears 44 to pay homage to John Riggins. You now have the ability to work the passing game from inside out. Tyler Warren works in between the numbers. You have Garrett Wilson working outside the numbers. And now as you run the ball with Breece Hall and all the other guys that they have, you're beginning to have a more balanced offense that should allow Justin Fields to shine. Tyler Warren, number 7 overall to the Jets.
I like it. This is a guy who's coming along as a blocker, but I think the biggest thing is his versatility. They can use him all over the field, spread him out wide, use him as a sniffer, put him in line. Hell, he could take snaps under center if you want him to. But I like the pick. I think it's a good compliment for them, gives them another option in the passing game. Love the pick. Buck, we're at 8, and I think this is prime trade up territory, trade down territory for the Panthers. But man, this is an interesting spot because they still need it. They've got Jalen Coker, Xavier Leggetti last year. It still needs to come around. Coker was the best out of that room. And Adam Thielen, still productive-ish, but a lot of areas where they can improve. This is going to be an interesting pick and maybe one that might shock you, but they need some edge rushers. They need some pass rushers on this defense. Jadeveon Clowney still kicking in the league, but you know what? They're going to get an athletic freak here. Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M might be a reach for a lot, but this is an athletic freak. They ship off Brian Burns. They don't have anybody who's that premier pass rusher. This gives them a guy that they can allow to grow. Not a ton of production in college, but man, the traits are off the charts. I think that this is a big gamble for the Panthers, but it's one that might pay off massively.
Man, you going to the bat like Aaron Judge. You swinging for the fences with Wow.
We're not
I gotta
messing
sit up
around,
for a
man.
minute. No, we're not messing around. Now, the positives that I will say is people will talk about the lack of production, but what they haven't
Mhm.
seen is look at the pressure numbers. The pressure rate is off the charts. He's very
Yep.
close to being able to get people in the paint. When you look at the traits, you just don't see people of his size run that time, come off the ball, and show those kinds of athletic traits and those things. Very interesting. My man Dan Morgan is out there really rolling the dice, but perhaps there's a precedent. Dan Morgan was with the Seattle Seahawks when they took Bruce Irvin, and no one thought that Bruce Irvin would be kind of the guy. Maybe, given the fact that they've seen some of those gambles pay off, maybe he's able to do it at 8. Woo!
Yeah.
Little rich for me. But now you have actually left my guy. I thought you were going to take my guy off the board. I'm the New Orleans
Left
Saints.
him right there for you.
I get a 2-for-1. I get Jalen Walker to take because I get a combination of Demario Davis and Cam Jordan. I get someone that can be an off-ball linebacker on early downs and then a pass rusher on passing downs. This is a freak show when it comes to his athleticism, his ability to turn speed into power, his ability to run from sideline to sideline. He can do so many different things. And when I think about Brandon Staley, look, he might not have been the best head coach, but he's always been a fantastic coordinator. And he has always been able to take unique guys with tremendous traits and kind of put them in a position to star. I remember seeing what he did with Derwin James. I think he can have a lot of fun with Jalen Walker being a guy that can kind of play kind of like the queen on the chessboard, doing a bunch of different things.
I like it. I think it gives them a versatile player that they can use in that defense. They've still got some heavy hitters on that defense. It's not going to be solved in one pick for the Saints. So definitely love building up that core there. At 10, Bucky, you took Jeanty. You took him away from Ben Johnson. Now you've made him have to go in a completely different direction. I still think the pick is running back here. And I love Ashton Jeanty. I think Omarion Hampton is very close, not quite at the level, but the contact balance is there. He's a very efficient runner, can run in either gap or zone scheme. And we know Johnson's going to be in a zone heavy scheme. We're going to go with Omarion Hampton here at 10 for the Bears. It's higher than I've seen him in other spots, but I think with the need for running back and the need to give Caleb Williams a little more assurance back there, they bolstered up the offensive line this offseason. I think that this is where they get one of those weapons. And Ben Johnson was in Detroit when they took Gibbs really high. I think that this is another scenario where they take a running back, just fill the position, get a guy in there who can produce, and give Caleb Williams as much help as possible going into year 2.
Look at you. You are over here cooking with gas. You got us working. I'm just looking at the board right now. And to the surprise of many, we got guys who we've been talking about being dominant players that are off the board. No Mason Graham. Mason Graham hasn't been taken off the board. We're still talking about some of the offensive linemen and those things. And so here I am. I'm the San Francisco 49ers, and I have the ability to do a few different things. I'm sitting at 11. I got a chance to, with Robert Saleh coming back, I can rebuild this defensive line to get us up and going. I got Nick Bosa on the outside, but now I got to make a decision. Do I want an inside rusher or an outside rusher? To me, I'm just sitting here, and I just can't imagine them bypassing Mason Graham if he's sitting there at 11. So I'm going to take Mason Graham. Mason Graham, to me, is underrated. He's a sleeper. He's fallen out of the top 10. We're going to take him at number 11. We're going to put him alongside his nemesis, Nick Bosa, because of the Ohio State thing. But we're going to make sure that we now have two energetic, ferocious pass rushers, one inside, one outside, to be able to get after the quarterback.
I love the pick. I love the fit. Definitely some other areas where I've seen San Francisco go in mock drafts, but I like this with Graham falling out of the top 10. Got to take the best player there. At 12, Bucky, your number 2 wide receiver is sitting there, and they need some wide receiver help. Brandon Cooks gone. Jalen Tolbert is still in the house. They brought in Jonathan Mingo last season. I felt like that was an overpay. CeeDee Lamb needs some pressure taken off of him in that pass game. Tet McMillan from Arizona, you are a Dallas Cowboy. I think he fits exactly what they need. He's got a great frame. He can fill that kind of slender X role where CD can fill that Z and move him around in the slot. I feel like McMillan is going to be a great option there in Dallas and help boost that pass game. They still need a running back, though. With both the top running backs off the board, I think that this is a good direction for them to go and wait until the second round where they can maybe grab a running back in this deep class.
I mean, I would love it. I would love to see them add someone with CeeDee Lamb. And as they're beginning to think about, like, hey, they're going to have to pay Michael Parsons. They're going to have to get some of this stuff done as the roster changed with with Dak Prescott making so much money. Ted McMillan going opposite CeeDee Lamb could be a good pick for the Cowboys as they try and get close the ground on their division rivals. So now 13, Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are look, they're really having a tough time right now because Terron Armstead, he retires. You're sitting here looking at the interior of the offensive line, trying to figure out how do we fix that. And I'm sitting here like, there are some people, like it's so funny because the conversation to me right now is Kelvin Banks Jr. versus Amon Membu from Missouri. And I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks Jr. When we think about pass protecting and athleticism, quick feet, great hands, to me, he fits the bill. And I know the Dolphins are undergoing a bit of a reset, but I think they got to make sure that this offensive line is good to go. And so Banks Jr. to me is the pick for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and he fits. He's still really young. He's a fresh 21-year-old, great in zone, which is perfect for what they're kind of do. Can play either inside or outside, depending on what they need right now. But I think that it's a perfect fit. I would not be surprised. I know I see a lot of people giving them Nick Emenwari from South Carolina, and they still need some DBs, but I like the Banks pick. I think that's perfect. Buck 14. The Colts, man, there's a lot of different directions this Colts team could go. I've seen Tyler Warren, here a lot. Tight end is definitely a position where they need a little bit of help, but they still have some guys in that tight end room that could produce. Let's not ignore the quarterback play that's been going on there for the last couple of years. But for this pick, I'm going to go Jahad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama. Nice. Yeah, I think, with Zaire Franklin is their starting middle linebacker right now, but this is a guy that they can play inside. They can play him off ball. They could play him off the edge. I think he gives them a ton of versatility. And he's just going to be a dude. Like he's one of my favorite linebackers in this class. It flies to the ball. I think he's going to be a perfect add for that defense.
Man, I like it. We haven't seen a lot of conversation about them taking a linebacker, but the one thing that always stands out with Chris Ballard, he loves to go for the athletic freaks. Like if you look at their history the last few years, they've gotten guys that were like super productive at the combine when it came to the athletic numbers. When you look at Jahad Campbell, you look at what he brings physically, but also what he brings on tape. He'd be a nice fit for the Indianapolis Colts at 14. That brings me to the Atlanta Falcons at 15. And this is a team that has been struggling for years trying to find that pass rusher, that guy that can give them double-digit sacks consistently. And I'm going to sit here and I'm looking at the guys that are available. And look, you took Shamar Stewart, who I kind of thought that maybe he would be the pick there, but there's some guys that are super decorated at pass rusher that are available. And so I'm going to take, man, this is tough because I got Mikael Williams from Georgia and I got Mike Green from Marshall. Let's go with Mike Green from Marshall at this pick. And the reason why we can go with Green is sack leader, 16 and a half sacks this year, relentless pressure, dominated at the Senior Bowl. And you can see everything that you want to see. First step quickness, snap count anticipation, the ability to turn speed into power, and then just the nastiness. When I look at this defense and I think about Raheem Morris and how they want to dominate in the dome, it has to be about someone off the edge making plays. I think Mike Green from Marshall could be the guy for them.
Yeah, brings a ton of speed off the edge, a lot of explosiveness. I think it's what they need. Those sack numbers have been absolutely putrid over the last few seasons. They need to just keep shooting to hope they get somebody that can be productive, man. It needs to just happen. It's got to hit at least out on one of these guys, right?
They got to find somebody who can do it. Find somebody who can make a play, make it happen. We need someone who can make it happen.
It's been tough to watch. It's been tough to watch over these last couple of years. 16, Buck, the Cards. This is a tough one. I see a lot of defensive line picks here, but man, they signed Calais Campbell. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson. Darius Robinson was their first round pick a year ago. Baron Browning, they traded for him last year. They bring in Josh Sweat. I feel like defense kind of isn't the way to go here. They still got a lot of dudes in the secondary. So I'm going to go offensive line here. And I'm going to give them someone who's kind of, maybe they can figure out what to do with him. I'm going to give them Armand Membu from Missouri. I think that this is a guy they could play him inside. They could play him outside depending on what they need. But this is a dude, either way, he's an athletic freak. I think he still has a ton of potential. And as they're trying to figure out what the next steps are with Kyler Murray and this whole situation, it's going to be really important for them to keep that offensive line intact. They brought in Paris Johnson last year. And Jonah Williams is the right tackle right now. Yeah. I don't think that's a viable option long term. So get Membu in there, figure out whether he's playing right guard or right tackle, get him on that line to protect Kyler for right now and for the future.